Welcome back to the Minecraft stream, everybody. Let's jump right back into it. We're going to be gathering some resources in the Minecraft world. I've just built this fancy super duper smelter. It's not exactly the biggest one you could imagine, but you know, it gets the job done. We got a lot of glass cooking up. We need over 3 shulker boxes of white glass, not to mention other colors. So we're working on that. Meanwhile, I've also built a cactus farm over here in this building. So we are getting, slowly, some cactus for green dye. As you can see, I've got this. It's just like just a double layer, you know, but it works. And I also built the gold farm, which we were gathering the magma blocks for. So that's been working as well. And we're starting to get the blackstone that we need. But we need so much of it, it's ridiculous. Today I'm going to try to get some ink. I really want to get all the dyes together that we need, because I've done some sand and gravel mining to where we have all of the concrete materials that we need, but I need like a bunch of gray concrete and a bunch of black as well, and a little bit of white and gray, so we just need the dyes. But the biggest dye that we need is black dye, which is ink sacs. I was looking at creating an ink farm, a squid farm. Unfortunately, that's a little bit too expensive for me. I don't have a working iron farm right now, and it requires like 2 stacks of hoppers. So I'm a little bit like, that's a little bit crazy, because I'd have to get like a shulker box of iron. And I guess I could build an iron farm, but do that. So we're gonna try. Before we commit to the iron farm or anything like that, we're gonna just try going for just hunting squids, literally, and killing them in the wild, and see how quickly we can get a bunch of ink. First, though, I'm gonna run back to the base and grab some food, and in fact, I'm gonna use this box here to just fill it completely with golden carrots. Because I keep running out of food and having to come back here, which is not great. So we'll just have this in the ender chest at all times. Alright, actually, I need to get another fresh box out of there. I'd love to have close to a full shulker box of ink. I don't know if that's feasible, but we're going to try to get as much as we can. So Let's see. I guess we should go to this ocean up here. It's the biggest one. Up to this point, this is just what I've been doing, is every now and then when I need squid, I just go out and hunt for them, because they're not too uncommon. Yeah, like here's some already. But this stream, I'm going to try to keep it a little more, since we're just doing this, I'm just going to keep it a little more interesting, hopefully, with the talky part. I'm going to talk about some stuff that I would just talk about normally, and see if you guys like it. You can let me know. But this time I'm going to talk about Star Wars. All right, we're going to talk about Star Wars because I like Star Wars. Star Wars is cool. But there are also some issues that I kind of want to discuss. And a lot of other people, or at least some other people, have discussed this a lot more better than I can do just off the top of my head. But I want to talk about this sort of continuing issue, although it's lessening a little bit in recent years. But the continuous issue of fans just being really toxic and disrespectful towards George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars. As a lot of you probably know, the prequels, episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars were released quite a while after the original movies, and a lot of the fans who had seen the original movies when they were kids didn't like the prequels. And I kind of have a bit of an issue with considering them prequels on its own, but we'll come back to that later. Basically, a lot of fans were like, no, we don't like this. But they didn't just not like it, they were like, I hate this so much, and it's ruined my childhood, and I'm going to bully George and the actors, and just be all around just a super mega dick about this for no reason at all. So, things like bullying child actor Jake Lloyd, whose first movie was Star Wars Phantom Menace, and he never acted again. Because everyone just hated on him so much, which is obviously completely not okay. They also really, really got really sort of personal with Ahmed Best, the actor who played Jar Jar Binks. In fact, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that he received death threats from fans. Which is completely ridiculous. But, so aside from just this general overreaction, there have been plenty of fans over the years who've criticized the movies themselves, and this goes not just for the prequels, but for the special editions of the original movies as well. Episodes 4, 5, and 6, when he went back and changed things for the special editions, and also subsequent changes for Blu-rays, etc. So, you have this whole sort of trend of, movie reviewers just bashing the heck out of the prequels and all this stuff and saying, oh, George ruined Star Wars. Which, the crux of this is kind of that, why do you think that the original artist who created the thing has now ruined the thing that they are creating and it's their thing? I don't know how that works. It seems kind of presumptive to have that attitude, or kind of just weird. But, it's basically an issue of respect for artists and their, ownership of their work, and the fact that you don't have control over another artist's work, and you also don't have, you're not entitled to think that you know better how art should be made than the artist. Okay? And this is where I'm going to start to get into what I mentioned before with the prequels being considered, being, they're the prequels, right? But that's not really what they are. Because Star Wars isn't an original trilogy and a prequel trilogy. They just happen to be made at different times. Star Wars is one thing. It's one piece of art. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 episodes, and you're supposed to watch them in that order. Well, not you can watch them in any order you want, obviously, but George recommends that you watch them in that order. And so the sort of separation of them never really made sense to me. I've kind of started to figure out why people do it more recently, where I think it's just that a lot of the people who liked Star Wars when they were kids and the original 4, 5, and 6 came out just kind of stopped liking Star Wars when they grew up, but because of their nostalgia, they still liked the original movies. But when George kept making movies, they didn't like them anymore. And they decided that what happened was that George had changed rather than that they had changed. And it was really kind of... all of the critiques that I've seen anyway of the prequels are just kind of completely ignorant and completely miss everything about what George was trying to do with the movies, and also how the movies are similar and really not that different from 4, 5, and 6, right? People will say things like, all the stuff about, the dialogue, they'll be like, dialogue is clunky, sucks, doesn't sound good, and it's like, they're like going crazy about this cringe dialogue or whatever, and it's like, I'm sorry, but you can't think that whatever the fuck Anakin says about sand is too cringe and cheesy, and not think that it's cringe and cheesy when Luke goes, but I care, or when he goes like, no, it's not true, it's impossible, I mean, to me, that's just crazy to be like, to be deluded enough to think that that those are different, right? George has always had this thing where the dialogue in his movies is kind of obvious or melodramatic. And the reason, of course, is that the way he makes the movies, the dialogue is supposed to, on the one hand, be unnecessary, because it's supposed to function as a silent film. So whenever you think, oh, this dialogue is so obvious, or they're just, like, why are they saying this obvious emotion or whatever? And it's because the dialogue is like just extra. It's not. You're not supposed to. The reason it feels weird and out of place is because it's not supposed to be necessary. You're supposed to be able to get everything that you need to know about a scene from the scene itself, from the actual cinema. What George has put on the screen as the director. So, when Anakin says cringe or, weird lines or whatever in the romance scenes, you're supposed to be able to tell from his body language what he's feeling, not just be, like, relying on the dialogue. And when it comes to the style of the dialogue in particular, George is sort of basing it on this cheesy sort of aesthetic of, sort of wacky adventure serials from the 40s, stuff like that. Also westerns. It's a very western inspired sort of aesthetic, and it's really criticizing the dialogue for being cheesy is like kind of like you're just saying that it's bad because it did its job too well, because that's literally what he was trying to do. But, there are other things. So, aside from dialogue, you've got the fact that they always mention things like, I hate all the politics, in the movies, and they come up with all these weird excuses, like, it's boring to kids, it's too complicated, these things that are just really completely ridiculous because it's like, I'm sorry if it's too complicated for you, but are you just stupid? I mean, I don't know. And of course, if you don't understand it, that's fine. But like, it's hardly rocket science in a lot of cases. Like, if you're really paying attention, the metaphors are pretty clear. But also, just the fact that the political scenes and the fact that there's like a political element to this is not something that started in the prequels. All right. Remember in episode 4 when at the very start of episode 4 when Darth Vader overtakes Princess Leia's ship and he comes on board and they sort of catch her and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan. And he's like, well, if this is a diplomatic mission, where is the ambassador? And then the other guy comes in and he's like, if word of this gets out, it might generate sympathy for the rebellion in the Senate. And he's like, the Senate need not know of it. It's like they're talking about Senate constantly and like politics stuff. And then they go to the council room on the Death Star or whatever, and all the freaking governors and stuff are like talking about sympathy for the rebellion in the Senate, the fact that the Imperial Senate is sort of not really for the Empire anymore, and then Tarkin's like, well, the Imperial Senate will no longer be of a concern to us. The Emperor has dissolved the council permanently. The regional governors will now have direct control over their stars. It's just like, oh my god, it's a political scene where a bunch of people just sit around and talk about politics. The exact thing that all of these guys say is a problem when it happens in episodes 1, 2, and 3, right? So it's just like, is it really different? I don't think so. And then the thing about, oh, it's boring for kids. What do you mean? Listen, I watched Star Wars when I was like 9 years old. A lot of the politics I didn't really understand. I thought it was kind of interesting. I was like, what's going on here? But let's be honest, I didn't understand it, right? And do you know what kids do when they don't understand something? Do you know what the kids who watched episode 4 in theaters and who are now bitching about the prequels, you know what what their brains did when they saw those political scenes? They glossed over it. They were just like, oh, it's something I don't understand. Anyway, cool spaceships, like kid brains do. Kids aren't sitting there going like, oh, I can't believe there's politics in the movie, blah, it's so boring. Like, no, there's plenty of stuff in these movies to keep them entertained, and they just gloss over the politics stuff. That's what I did, and then I grew up and got a brain, and I learned to appreciate the politics and all of the sort of more interesting political scenes for what they are, which I couldn't do before. But evidently these other people didn't do that. They didn't grow up and get a brain, and instead are just whining about things because they are like wanting to have movies that are dumb enough to make them feel like dumb kids. So they've just lost the joy, I guess. I don't know. They can't have fun anymore. But yeah, it's these are just some of the things. Oh gosh, I forgot as well. Here's a whole other thing to mention. The frickin' midichlorian situation. All right, and the way that that they're all like, oh, the Force is ruined because it sounds exactly like that when they talk, by the way. But they're like, oh no, the Force is ruined by midichlorians because he made it into this like scientific explanation for what is supposed to be like a mystical energy field or whatever. It's like, oh, it was supposed to be this. Oh, so you know what it's supposed to be, whereas the actual artist who created it doesn't know that? Great, good to know. You're just a mega genius who knows everything. Anyway, that's not how this works. The Force, because what they always say in relation to this is not only that, oh, it's a scientific explanation for whimsical stuff, which is like, no, It's just a vehicle by which the same whimsical stuff that is always, you've always known has happened, happens, right? It's really not that different. But the other problem they have is that they say, oh, well, now if it's just about your number of midichlorians, how sensitive you are to the Force, then it's oh no, the Force is now like hereditary, and it's like something you're born into rather than anyone can wield the Force, and it's like. And isn't it supposed to bind everything in the universe or whatever? And it's like, you're completely forgetting, like when they make this argument, they have forgotten what was said in the original movies, okay? In episodes 4, 5, and 6. The movies that they say are great and that the prequels ruined, all right? The Force was always hereditary. The reason we follow Luke Skywalker is not, as they claim, because anyone can be Luke Skywalker. It's because he's Luke Skywalker. He's Anakin Skywalker's son, and therefore has the potential, and this goes for Leia as well, they're Anakin's children, and therefore they have the potential to be incredibly powerful in the Force for good or for better or worse, and that's why we follow them, which is because they have this sort of gift that they can that they have to deal with, right? That's the thing. Luke says in Return of the Jedi, he's like, the Force runs in my family. I have it, my father has it, and you have it, or whatever. When he's talking to Leia, that's like, have we forgotten about that? That's how it always was. There's no change. It's not any different. It was always like that. Again, George's vision doesn't seem to really shift very much. He's very clear and consistent about what he wants to say in his movies. People just forget and are dumb and sort of just ignore, like, all the important stuff that they should have remembered when they're critiquing these movies. So yeah, it's just sort of it's like, again, this weird sort of, they have this skewed idea both of the movies themselves, where they literally just misinterpret and don't understand what happens and what the things are that are already in the movies. And they also think that they know what Star Wars should be better than George does, and they keep saying like, oh, George ruined it, oh, George did this, George did that, and it was bad. And, special editions is the same. Oh, George shouldn't have changed this, changed that. Han shot first, blah, 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 And it's like, as if they know better what Star Wars is supposed to be. And this is like, if you wanted an analogy, okay? This is like if someone was making a painting, right? They're working on a painting. They show you the painting when it's halfway done, right? So it's not finished. It's halfway done. They've done half of the painting. A bunch, like most, like a lot of the important information is there, but there's also a good amount missing. They've done half the painting, okay? And you're like, wow, this is great. I love this painting. This is so cool. And then they're like, oh, well, that's great. Let me finish the painting. And then, 20 years later, that painting that you loved so much and that you still claim to love is finished. They show it to you again, and you're like, oh, no, how could you do this? You've ruined your painting. Like, does that kind of make sense, like, how ridiculous it is? It's like, why, like, you're not the artist. Like, you don't get to say whether the artist has improved their work or not based on your own, like, random sort of feelings about what you wanted it to be. If you don't like the art, you can just not like it. You can just be like, well, I liked it at one point and now I don't really like it anymore. You don't have to be like, you, the artist, objectively ruined it. That's just not... That's not the case. And that's basically the whole thing about this, is that we're talking about people's opinions changing and the fact that they just don't like the same things they liked anymore. But your opinion is just like like your preference is not objective, right? And these people seem to think that they have the right idea, right? It's like, oh, I don't like this thing that I used to like, therefore it must now be bad for some reason, and they try to like objectively claim these things by completely misrepresenting what George was trying to do and judging him unfairly on premises that were never part of what he was doing, and just make this like weird thing of trying to validate your own sort of dissatisfaction with something that you thought you liked, and instead of just accepting that, well, I don't really like this anymore, and I'm sort of just, I'm okay with just moving on, It's like they can't do that for some reason. A lot of people just seem to feel like their opinion has to be the right one. Which then leads them to become just complete, losers who argue in YouTube comments sections, where they're like, it would someone's presented like, just their like sincere thoughts about one of the movies, and then this dude comes in here, and he's like, well, too bad it sucks, and it's like, nice, great, thanks, good to hear your, real mature of you to just sort of crap on other people's fun because you think that you're correct for not liking something. It's almost like if you were just like confident and fine with your interests and preferences, you could just not feel the need to grumpily post things on the internet and make annoying videos where you complain about things. Pretty crazy to think about, but it's possible to be that way. So, that's a lot. That's quite a few of my my thoughts on that situation, at least. If you guys want to weigh in at all, feel free to debate or ask questions in the chat. I'm happy to keep talking about it if you have anything else specifically. I mean, I'm sure I could go through some of the other just random, I should have written this down, like the common fake criticisms of Star Wars that I see. Oh yeah, well let's. I guess I can talk about the special edition situation with stuff like the frickin' Greedo Han Shot First BS. So these guys think that they know, again, they know the story better than Lucas does, and so they're like, well. And if you don't know the history, I'll just very briefly do it, because it's kind of nerd stuff, like, to know exactly what happened, right? In the original Star Wars, the original version of Star Wars that was released in 1977, the first movie, when Han is sitting in the Mos Eisley Cantina in his little standoff with Greedo, and then he shoots him, right? In the original version, Han shoots before Greedo does. He's the only one to shoot. He just shoots and kills Greedo, right? And this is, and you're I mean, it's like, it kind of is mind blowing how small this change is. When you actually think about it, this is not something that anyone would notice or care about if it didn't get changed from one to the other, right? So then later, in one of the special editions, George changed the scene to where Greedo shoots first, misses, and Han shoots him like immediate, like 1 frame after or something, or 2 frames after. So basically, you have this this thing. In one version, Han shoots first. In the other version, Greedo shoots first, and Han retaliates. And these, weird fan critics will be like, Han shot first, and we like it that way because it like informs the entire character. Because they have this idea that because Han goes on like an arc from being this sort of smuggler, no good, criminal or whatever, to becoming like a hero of the rebellion and doing great things. They think that gets ruined by him not shooting first, because they think him just killing Greedo in cold blood, as they see it, that they see that the difference is that when he shoots first, he just kills Greedo straight up, and it's like, and therefore he's like a cold-blooded killer or whatever. And then in the other version where he shoots after Greedo, 2 frames after Greedo shoots, it's like, oh, well, now it's just self-defense, and then he doesn't seem as like, sort of bad anymore or whatever. And it's like, the problem with this is that the change is not actually, like, the fundamentals of the scene haven't changed. Greedo intends to kill Han no matter what, right? Whether he gets a shot off or not, he is going to try to kill him. He's threatening him. Because at this point, Jabba wants Han dead or alive. He's like, I'm done dealing with this guy. I just want him, I just want him brought to me. And I want his money, right? And so the whole thing is that Greedo is going to shoot, Greedo is prepared to kill Han no matter what. So regardless of who shoots first, Han is always shooting in self-defense. And so, like, the change is not, it's really not that big of a change. And then of course, well, then it's like, okay, well, if the change is not that big, what's the reason for the change? Well, the reason for the change is, again, going back to something I mentioned earlier, George makes Star Wars like it is a silent film, and he wants it to function like a silent film, meaning you can gather all the information necessary from just the visual without dialogue. And so he thought that in the previous version, or in the version where Han shoots first, it wasn't clear visually that it wasn't clear visually that Han was shooting in self-defense. It could look, if you didn't, if you weren't paying attention to the dialogue, it could look like he just killed him, right, for no reason. And so he changed it to make it obvious visually, that he was shooting in self-defense. That was always how it was intended to be. People just didn't pick up on it. And it's kind of funny that nobody realized, like, it took him changing it to make it obvious visually in order for them to realize what the original intention was. So it's kind of like, real good, film criticism there, guys. You completely missed the point until it was pointed out to you, and then you didn't like it and thought that it had been changed and become a bad thing or something. So it's just like, it's very sort of ironic. Got quite a few ink sacs here. Oh, okay, here's a good one. Another criticism I've heard of Attack of the Clones, of Episode 2 in particular, is that they say, oh, it's too complicated, or too convoluted. This is kind of going back to that politics thing. It's kind of the same argument, where it's just like, oh, it's too complicated, it's too hard to follow, It's going to be hard for the kids. It's like, and of course, which to me is just kind of weird because it's like why is it bad for a plot to be kind of complicated? Like when I watch a movie, and this is an opinion thing, right? But still, this is what I'm talking about. Is that they have like a preference, it's a preference thing, and they have this preference for it to not be complicated, but they want to pretend that is like an objective thing. It's not. It's just a preference, and my preference happens to be that I prefer movies that actually are complicated and that make you think a little bit more. Actually use your brain. I want to use my brain when I'm watching a movie. I don't want to just turn it off like some people apparently do. So that's just a different thing. I like it that way. Other people like it a different way. It doesn't mean I'm right. That's just how I prefer it. And again, there were all of these political scenes in and sort of more complicated things that probably kids wouldn't understand in episodes 4, 5, and 6 as well, and they just ignore those or forget about them for whatever reason, because that would make it clear that they're just sort of having this weird change of preference and that it's not actually an objective criticism at all. If you realize that the things they're criticizing are the same in the movies that they actually like, so criticism, the complexity thing is a criticism I've heard for more than just Star Wars. I've heard it for quite a few movies, like Pirates of the Caribbean. I've heard it in particular quite a lot, where it's just like, no, complicated plots, and it's like, what? Okay, but like some people like that. I like that. Here's some more guys here. What's great about this is it actually repairs my elytra when I kill them, so I can basically do this forever. Yeah, and my biggest problem really with the Disney sequel trilogy for Star Wars is that so similarly to all of these sort of fan sentiments over the years, it was created with such a lack of respect and understanding of George and the movies that he made. It just felt sort of hollow, and yeah, they just completely misunderstood that. I mean, J.J. Abrams is a self-described Star Wars fan, and he is of the variety that hates, that is like, no, there aren't midichlorians in my Star Wars. It's like, right, your Star Wars, yeah, your Star Wars, not what Star Wars actually is, which is George Lucas's. You prefer it to be yours and have it be different ways, and it's just sort of, yeah, there's not really, and that's a whole other thing, is that the sequels are really just handled terribly, and the main thing about the sequels is not even just that they're different from what George was doing. It's that they are supposed to be the continuation of George's story. It's episodes 7, 8, and 9, which George wrote. He wrote those movies, and he gave it to Disney when he sold the company. He wrote the stories for episodes 7, 8, and 9. They didn't use them. So these are what we get instead, and it's this weird sort of not very respectful just sort of dumb facsimile of what George was doing. And so, yeah. And it wouldn't be a problem. Like here's the thing, right? I don't mind if other things, like if these other shows, like The Mandalorian or The Bad Batch or whatever, I don't care if those are like in line exactly with what George's Star Wars was about, because those aren't really part of the main Star Wars. Those are extras, you know. It's just a fun extra thing, and there's plenty of room for that. You know, Star Wars is a big universe; you can do whatever you want in it. But when it comes to continuing the main series, like, you got to have some respect for the author and you know, and his intentions, which of course Disney wasn't really keen on doing because of all these freaking loser fans who bullied George and hated his movies. So, you know, Disney was like, oh, well, we don't want to have backlash, so we better take it away from George. You know, not do what he would want to do. So, you know, and then guess what? A bunch of the same people who hated the prequels and were hating what George did, they also hated the sequels. So guess what? You got what you asked for, guys. They made Star Wars without any input from George Lucas, and look where it got them. You know, so it's just like, yeah. I honestly think if there had been more respect for George, and the movies that he made, I genuinely think Disney would have seriously considered making his sequel trilogy instead of the one that they did. Yeah, once again, if there are any specific questions or things that you want to say about this, or even other related elements of the discussion, I am happy to talk about them. But look at this. We've got a whole bunch of ink sacs already. Seemed to have been about 40 minutes or something. Sophie Squid spawning now. What is going on? There's some. Dolphins playing with items, so annoying. Where did that even go? I don't know if I even got them. Yeah, just so many of these. So many of these criticisms I hear are just. It's like they've never seen Star Wars, dude, at all. Like, you know how they always freak out about this. About this is sort of a two-part thing about Darth Vader screaming "No" at the end of Episode 3, and then also the special edition change of where he also says "No" at the end of Episode 6. And they're like, "Oh no, come on, it's so cringe" or whatever, and it's like, do you not, like, do you have no awareness of how these movies work? Because if you paid attention, you'd realize that it's a repeated element where all the movies have a character screaming no, right? Which is a particular choice to have it that way because, as George does with a lot of things, you're taking the same motif and sort of recontextualizing it in different ways. And so every movie, there is at least one moment where a character says no, and those two mirror each other specifically because in the first one, in Episode 3, Vader is he's helpless, he's frustrated, he's angry, he's sad, and then because Padme is dead. And then in Episode 6, it's the opposite. He's taking action. He has the power to save his family. He's going to save his son, and so he says no and kills Palpatine, right? So it's like a specific, like, sort of mirroring of events. If you were paying attention to how, the art of how the films are made, you realize it, but nope, apparently that's not what they like to do. They like to just sort of ignore everything. So, yeah. Oh, and that reminds me of something else I was going to come back to, which is the order in which you watch the films. I mentioned it before. George recommends that you watch it 1 through 6. When I first watched Star Wars, my parents, my mom and dad showed it to me when I was like 9, something like that, and they had me watch it 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. So release order, and my dad maintains to this day that is, quote, the correct way or the best way to watch them. He says that no one should ever see any Star Wars before they've seen Episode 4, or something to that effect. Which is like, I don't know, fair enough. It's a little bit like your opinion is fact, but anyway, which it's not. But basically, a lot of people will insist very vehemently, much more so than that. They'll like completely insist that you absolutely must watch it in release order, which is like kind of funny because that's not what George recommends. Here's what I think is that. Obviously, I'm going to sort of side towards George because I'm on the side of artists presenting their work the way that they prefer it to be. As an artist myself, that's what I would want. So anyway, but I can sort of see the merit of both ways, right? And there are only these two options, okay? I mean, there are infinite options, but I don't really see the point in any other way. These are the two viewing orders that seem like they have something that makes them make sense. Some people say that the, like, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6 is a good order. I don't really agree with that. I mean, do it that way if you want, but it's not, to me it doesn't really make much sense. So the options I'm considering are 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So say I'm introducing someone to Star Wars who's never seen it before. Those are the options. I have them watch it release order or chronological order. The advantages of release order are sort of different to the advantages of chronological order. The advantages are that you get to see it sort of from a history of making the films perspective. So like how does the technology evolve? How do the films change? You know, in what is able to be done as they're making them. And whereas release order prioritizes sort of the story and the narrative, which, as George has said, the narrative is supposed to be experienced 1 through 6. So ultimately, that's what I would really ask the person when I'm showing it to them for the first time. I would say, are you more interested in the like film history side of it, and the seeing the process of you know, naturally sort of evolving of the films, or are you more interested in the story as George wants it to be presented, right? And depending on the answer, I would decide, you know, I'd tell them what order to do. I would say, you know, the ideal way for most people is probably 1 through 6, because story is a priority. When you're watching a film, you want to consume the narrative, right? That's the art that you're really getting, right? That's what you're watching it for, most likely. So release order makes the most sense for that, because and this is something else that people will whine about when you say watch it, chronological order will do it best for the story. Release order does it better for the history. Chronological order, people will whine about chronological order where they're like, oh no, but don't the prequels spoil the surprise of Darth Vader being Luke's father? To which I say, why is that surprise more important than the surprise of Anakin turning to the dark side? And like the entire plot of the prequels, where, you know, your heroes are separated and you know, everything ends up as a tragedy, which, you know, you wouldn't expect if you were watching it the first time without seeing the other movies. So it's like, you know, it's so obviously like sort of a bias where they're just like, the movies that they care about, those are the ones that they're worried about being spoiled. You know, where it's like, you're going to spoil something either way. They mutually spoil each other. But of course, I would argue that the spoiler, you know, and this is, again, we're talking only about narrative here. If you want to experience the narrative best, the spoiler of Darth Vader being Luke's father is a much more minor, you know, less impactful spoiler than the entire plot of the first 3 movies, right? You know, so it's like, if you're really gonna like minimize spoilers, like, you know, it makes sense to go chronological order, because you get, you know, the biggest sort of surprise gut punch is, you know, the fact that Anakin turns to the dark side in the end, and the Empire is born, and, you know, it's this whole thing. So that's why I would say, for most people, if you're, you know, looking to consume the narrative over the historical context, then chronological order is definitely the way to go. That's over half a shulker box. I think I'm pretty happy with that. That might be enough. Maybe we should go see. Oh god, I have the mining key. Okay, well, we'll just wait for the next 20 seconds. Check this out. I mined a bunch of deep slate. This was painful. I hate mining deep slate. But I did it. So we have all of this ready for the build. There we go. Don't forget to like the stream, by the way, if you are enjoying it. Some more white dye, that's for sure. Let's make the rest of our white glass at least. This will be enough. We only need like 3.1 shulkers or something, so. This fourth shulker will be filled with the other colors of glass we need on top of this. There we go. So the rest of this white dye I will bring with me. Come on, it's sleepy time. Got a treat. As the famous Beta Below would say. Okay. Okay, so we already have quite a bit of gray concrete stuff here. We need, let me check my list here. We need 3 boxes of gray concrete. And then 10 stacks of black. Okay, 8 stacks of black. So, let's see how much of this we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just counting full stacks. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is 8 stacks there, so that's enough. So I guess we'll just start a new box here. Say that this is white, like other colors of concrete. So I got 8 stacks there of white. We need 10 stacks of black. So let's just do that before anything else. Get out our ink sacks. Using the black. Oh yeah. I left my sand and gravel stuff back at the nether place. There we go. This is my barter farm. And gold farm area. Yeah, here we go. So, let's see. I am going to actually record this. I'm going to record this for the video, the YouTube video that I'm working on. Okay, so we'll just do gravel and sand. So, let's do we'll do this. Craft up all of the concrete. That's 6, 8, 9, 10. So that is 10 stacks of black. And so now the rest of this, we've got all the white we need already, so we just need to do the gray. Let's see. Any extra? Surely I thought I had some extra gray. Yeah, here's some extra gray dye. Alright, let's go ahead and gray concrete. Alright, we'll stick this in here. sort of stocking up on the gray dye. And we'll get our sand out. Or we'll come get those extra bits later. There we go. This is one full box of gray concrete. Need another box here. I should have enough sand. 1, 2, 3, 4. I should have enough sand to like complete the amount that I need. I hope. I've mined a lot of sand. Oh yeah, we should be fine. This is now... We're already on the last... Oh, well, let's just steal this box. Trying to keep things a little bit straightened out here so we know what's what. We have enough dye for 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, here we go. We just need like 3 more stacks. So this is easily gonna be enough. I am gonna probably overcraft just because I do need this block for other things as well. So yeah, we'll just do this. And there we go, we've got some extra. So that's 3 shulker boxes of gray concrete. Let's see. And then we got our 10 stacks of black, 8 stacks of white. Light gray, we need 7 stacks. Light gray is just going to be like white plus gray, right? Yeah. Right. Easy. That is already 7 stacks, yep. Alright. Easy mode. That is, I think, all the concrete we need. Let's go add this to the resource pile. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my Star Wars rant. I plan to do things more like this in the future when I stream. I'll have something to talk about. You know, and feel free to suggest things as well if you want me to talk about something. Alright, let's see. Got this. Boom, boom, boom. Alright, that's one big thing out of the way. I'm actually gonna stop the recording now. go. Let me also go ahead and name that file while I'm thinking of it. There we go, concrete crafting. Alright. Now, as far as glass, we also need a lot of glass. We've fulfilled our white glass. We need half a box, approximately, of light blue glass. Is light blue just blue and white? I think so. I believe I have, yes, some blue. Combine that with some white. Light blue, there we go. So, light blue, glass. Let's go over to the glass smelterator. Smeltificator. By the way, guys, I've tried to mitigate the noise of the computer when I talk this time by going for the mic in a different position, and also there's a stuffed animal between the mic and the computer. It's probably doing nothing, but I don't know. You guys can let me know how it sounds. The computer is very loud, so... Let's see. Oh, let's just get rid of this nonsense. Oh, I was wondering where my bed went. I'm an idiot. I'll leave this bed here and take my original one back. Alright. That is half a shulker. So that should be enough, actually. And then other colors are just black, I think, and we don't need a lot of that. So we should definitely be able to craft what we need. Alright. There we go, got some black. We'll craft a bunch of it into panes as well. That should definitely be enough glass. So that's two more really big resources checked off the list here. Concrete and glass. Yeah, the next biggest one is probably going to be terracotta. But that's easy enough to just go mine in the mesa. Can't hear the computer noise as much? Good, maybe the stuffed animal is actually working. Who knows? Alright. We got our blue and black, white, 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 white. There we go. That feels good. I feel like I've made a very good dent. I might be able to start building sometime soon, which is big. I'm still not going to tell you what the project is. This is a secret, alright? So keep tuning in to the streams, and you'll see it be constructed. The block choices here are your only hint of what this could be. Good luck. But that's going to be the end of the stream for today. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the stream if you did enjoy it. And don't forget to subscribe in order to catch more when I'm live. Until next time, goodbye.